They laughed and called me a failure at my brother's promotion dinner, so I walked away, made one call, and watched their world collapse in court.
Hey Hedge.
I'm Nina, 30F, and tonight, I did something totally new for me. I walked away, not quietly or with my head hung low, but with a calm smile and a plan that had been simmering for years. I got invited to my brother Daniel's promotion dinner at my parents' house. They really didn't want me there. It felt more like a duty, like they thought if they didn't invite me, I'd crumble. Spoiler alert, I wasn't going to show up. But curiosity got the better of me, and I wanted to see just how low they'd all sunk. Let me give you a bit of background. I've always been the family disappointment, the artsy kid who picked graphic design instead of going into business. The one who didn't get married by 25 or have a kid by 28. I run my own freelance design business from home, and yes, I live alone with my rescue dog, Milo. Not because I can't find love, but because I refuse to settle for anything less than what I deserve. Meanwhile, Daniel? Oh, he could walk on water, and they'd still ask if it was chilly. He's the golden child, business degree, fancy corporate job, nice house, shiny SUV, a wife who talks like she's narrating Instagram posts, and a toddler they treat like royalty. So when the invite came, I almost tossed it aside, but something pushed me to see if they'd changed, maybe even developed some basic human decency. Spoiler, they hadn't. As I approached the porch, I could hear them through the front window. The laughter, the clinking of glasses, the words. She actually came. Pathetic. No job, no love. A walking failure. She'll never be worth anything. That last dig? From my mother. The same woman who used to braid my hair and sing to me when I was sick. I stood there, frozen. I could have just walked in, played along, laughed off their insults like I did in the past. But something inside me finally snapped, and at the same time, rebuilt itself. I turned around quietly, keeping my cool. I didn't ring the bell, shout, or even shed a tear. Instead, I walked back to my car, pulled out my phone, and made one call. Just one call, because this time, they were going to feel everything I'd been holding in for the last decade. After I hung up, I sat in my car for a full minute. I wasn't crying or flying off the handle, not that kind of rage that bursts out. This was that slow-burning anger, the kind that tightens your jaw and brings everything into focus. I took one last look at the house before driving away. The lights were shining, laughter bubbled out from the windows, giving off the illusion that everything inside was perfect as long as I wasn't around. And that call, it wasn't to a friend or a therapist, someone who'd tell me to move on. Nope, it was to my lawyer. What my golden boy brother and my emotionless mother never realized is that I'd been gearing up for this moment for years. Here's the backstory. 5 years ago, I helped my dad, who passed away not long after, kickstart a small side business in digital signage. It wasn't anything glamorous, but I set up the branding, the client portal, and recurring billing. I never asked for anything in return. Not when I was working until 3 a.m. drafting contracts. Not when I paid out of my own pocket to rush a prototype, so Daniel wouldn't have to stress over the business side. After Dad died, Daniel swooped in like a hawk. "I'll take care of everything," he said. "You're too emotional for business." My mom nodded in agreement, as she always did, dismissing me as the creative one but impractical. So, I let them take the reins. What they didn't know was that the intellectual property rights, the software, the branding, all of it was still in my name. My lawyer had set it up that way when Dad and I launched, so I'd always have something solid to rely on. Dad once told me, "You're the only one I trust not to sell it." Fast forward 2 years, and guess what Daniel did? He sold it to a bigger signage company and couldn't wait to brag about it at a family barbecue. "I made 6 figures off it," he said, pouring himself another glass of rose. Not too shabby for something Dad threw together, huh? I can still picture myself standing there, frozen, gripping my cup so tightly that it cracked. He really didn't have a clue what he was talking about. It seemed like he thought the servers just worked on their own, that the invoice auto-tracking was some kind of magic, and that clients would stick around just because of him. He didn't even know what a UX dashboard was until I had to explain it to him twice. He was selling something I created, something I still legally owned, and I kept it to myself for 2 long years. But that call I made outside tonight? That was just the start of taking it back.
My lawyer was thrilled about it.
Honestly, we have a rock-solid case. The contracts are in great shape. I was the one holding the IP. If he made money off my work, we could be looking at damages, back pay, royalties, or maybe even fraud, depending on how he tried to twist the ownership story. I told my lawyer, go for it. I want every single cent. I want him to feel the impact of this. And that was just the beginning. As for my mom, she wasn't getting off easy either. Growing up, she wasn't one to yell. Nah, she was worse. Her disappointment hurt more than any shout. During parent-teacher conferences, when a teacher would say I was creative but easily distracted, she'd let out this dramatic sigh. She'd glance at my sketchbooks and say something like, "Nice hobby. What's your backup plan?" She didn't need to raise her voice. Her silence was far more damaging than words. My brother Daniel could pull off a joke in the backyard and get a laugh, while I'd forget to rinse my dish, and she'd look at me like I was a burden. But the real kicker? She never stood up for me. Not when classmates made fun of me for wearing hand-me-downs. Not when my college boyfriend cheated and she said, "Well, you can be tough to love sometimes." And definitely not when Daniel sold my work and took credit for it. A year ago, when I finally told her the truth, calmly and quietly, she just stared and replied, "You should have gotten it in writing." I did. She just didn't believe me. Or maybe she didn't care. Probably both. So when I heard her voice through that window the other night saying I would never amount to anything, I wasn't shocked. It's like I've always known this deep down. She didn't love me for who I am. She loved the idea of the girl I could have been. But what she never expected happened 6 months ago. I received a call from our former accountant who was going through some old family business files for tax reasons and found something surprising. After Dad passed away, Daniel and Mom filed to take control of the signage business to sell it off. But they faked my digital signature. Our accountant didn't catch it until now because he thought I had signed off on it, being a silent partner and all. But that signature? It definitely wasn't mine. And here's the kicker. That's felony fraud. So while Daniel is about to get hit with a lawsuit for selling intellectual property he had no right to, my mom might be facing something way more serious. A criminal investigation. Plus, the moment she claims any inheritance from that sale, it's considered benefiting from stolen assets. But don't worry, I'm not rushing to press charges. I'm actually giving her a choice. After all the things she's said and done, it's about time she faced the music for burning the only bridge that connected her to real family. I wrote a letter, completely professional, no emotional outbursts, just the facts, dates, screenshots, and a polite invitation to sort this out outside of court. I made sure it was delivered the morning after Daniel's promotion dinner. I knew she'd be home alone and timed it perfectly for when she was having her second cup of tea. I imagined her in her robe, opening that envelope, skimming through the words, and finally realizing I wasn't the quiet, forgiving child anymore. I had grown some backbone. That night, for the first time in months, my mom called me. I didn't pick up. Then just 2 days later, I got a text from Daniel saying we need to talk. Sunday at 5 p.m. with Mom. I thought, no way. Is she okay? Just a desperate try to regain control. And for the first time in my life, walking into that house, I didn't feel anxious. I felt ready. Not for revenge, but because I wanted my freedom and I deserved it. The second I stepped into the living room, I could see it in their eyes. Fear. Mom was sitting stiffly on the couch, her lips tight like she was about to scream. Daniel was by the fireplace, arms crossed, trying to act all tough, but he couldn't even look me in the eye. "You've made some serious accusations," he started. I raised an eyebrow. There were no accusations, just facts, dates, documents, and screenshots. Mom scoffed, saying, "You're going to destroy your own family over a misunderstanding."
No, Mom.
You destroyed it when you laughed behind my back. When you watched Daniel steal my work and did nothing. When you looked at me, all I could see reflected back was disappointment. She opened her mouth, but I raised my hand to stop her. This isn't up for debate. This is just a courtesy meeting. The paperwork's been filed. My lawyer gave you both an opportunity to address this before it went public. You chose to ignore it. That's on you. Daniel's voice shook. Come on, Nina. We're family. I couldn't help but laugh. A genuine laugh. Family? You called me a failure the very same night you toasted to a success that wasn't even yours. You profited off my hard work while telling me I was worthless, all while helping him cash in on it. He stepped closer. Look, if it's about money, we can settle this quietly. It's not about money, I replied, my voice calm now. It's about respect and accountability, something you've both sidestepped your whole lives. Mom's expression fell, but she still couldn't muster the words, couldn't apologize, couldn't admit I was right, couldn't even say thanks for the nights I spent helping Dad build a life that gave you both comfort. So I said it for her. I used to beg for your approval. I thought if I just accomplished more, sacrificed more, stayed quiet, you'd finally see me. I stood up. But now I see myself. And I'm proud of the woman I've become. Sliding a sealed envelope across the table, I added, here are the final settlement terms. Sign it or don't, but the court date is set. I'll see you there, if that's what you choose. Turning to leave, I heard Daniel say, wait, but I didn't stop. I walked to the door just like that night, but this time, there was no sting, no sadness, just relief. As I opened the door and stepped outside, the evening air felt like a fresh start. Milo was waiting for me in the car. I gave him a treat, buckled up, and drove away from that house for the last time. The court date came 6 weeks later. They thought I wouldn't follow through. Even with all the paperwork and warnings, they still believed I was that same quiet girl who just wanted to be noticed. They were mistaken. I entered that courtroom composed, steady, and done being the scapegoat. My lawyer, Maya, started off strong, laying out the original IP agreement between my dad and me, showcasing my design work, billing logs, and my digital signatures. Then she revealed the piece de resistance, the forged document Daniel submitted during the business sale. It was more than just unethical, it was outright criminal. Daniel fumbled through his testimony, trying to downplay it. I thought she was okay with it. I didn't think it was a big deal, but the judge wasn't buying it. Especially after Maya revealed screenshots of messages where Daniel bragged about selling Dad's side project and clearing out. As for my mother, she never took the stand. Her lawyer claimed she was emotionally unfit, but the judge reviewed her signed approvals, banking logs, her silence, and added her name to the liability list. The verdict came down swiftly. Daniel was found guilty of IP theft and ordered to pay $438,000 in profits and damages. My mother was hit with civil fraud, having to pay $75,000 in restitution as part of a legal settlement. And me? I was recognized as the sole creator and legal owner of the original business. Daniel didn't even glance my way as he passed outside the courthouse. Mom lingered at the door, looking worn out and shaken. Nina, she said softly. I didn't know.
No.
I replied. You didn't want to know. She fell silent. I walked away. Back in my car, Milo wagged his tail as if nothing had happened. And maybe that was the point. Life just goes on. As I drove out of the courthouse parking lot, the sunlight broke through the clouds. I didn't smile because I won. I smiled because I finally stood up and walked away from everything that tried to diminish me. Enjoyed the story? Like, comment, and subscribe to support the channel. What's the toughest boundary you've ever had to set with family? Share below. And also let me know what country you're watching from.